I'm Yukie, and I'm 39 this year. 2 days ago, my mom passed away, and now we're in the middle of her funeral. As the host, I've been running around nonstop, keeping everything under control.
Yukie, you're doing an amazing job holding it together. That's just like you, Yukie. But don't push yourself too hard, okay? You were the one taking care of your mom all by yourself, weren't you? Yeah, and you never even complained. Meanwhile, her husband? Ugh, totally useless.
My husband, Takashi, didn't help at all with my mom's care. Honestly, he's been like that forever. Even though we both work full-time, he's always left the housework to me. I'm home!
You're home late.
I messaged you that I'd be working overtime, didn't I?
Yeah. Anyway, hurry up and make dinner.
Huh? I told you to eat without me since I'd be late.
What? You expect me to cook for myself? Making dinner is a housewife's job, isn't it?
I work too, you know. The least you could do is help when I have overtime.
Whatever. I'll go eat at my mom's place.
With that, Takashi stormed off to his parents' house, just a 10-minute walk away. Ugh, great. Now I'll get another snarky comment from my mother-in-law.
Yukie, I heard you can't even make dinner properly.
I'm sorry. The other day I got caught up at work.
Save the excuses. Seriously, it's all work this, work that, like you're so important. No wonder you still haven't had kids.
It's always like this when my mother-in-law shows up. She keeps blaming me, saying we can't have children because I work or because there's something wrong with me. She goes on and on, criticizing endlessly. And Takashi, he never defends me. Instead, he just sits next to her with his face that says, she's got a point. Hey, Takashi, if you're that unhappy with me, why don't we just get divorced?
Where's this coming from?
Well, you're always complaining, always in a bad mood. It's like you can't stand being with me.
That's not true.
And when your mom's giving me a hard time, you just sit there and act like it's none of your business.
I didn't mean to.
So maybe we'd be better off separating.
I'm sorry, Yukie. It's my fault.
What?
I've been taking you for granted. I'm so sorry.
Takashi.
I'll change. I'll be a better husband, I promise. Just...
I was completely thrown off by Takashi's sudden change in attitude.
Please don't say you want a divorce. You're the only one I have, Yukie.
Takashi sounded so desperate that in the end, I couldn't help but cave.
Here, take this as a keepsake. If I ever hurt you again or make you unhappy, go ahead and use it.
I had expected Takashi to agree to the divorce so easily, but his reaction was so unexpected that I mistook it for love. Or rather, I let myself believe it was love. God, I was such an idiot. Ever since Takashi apologized on his knees, he's been actively helping out with housework. Thanks, Takashi.
It's nothing really.
And that's not all. Takashi started inviting me on dates, saying things like, how about eating out sometime? Maybe we could go back to that bistro we loved before we got married. Meeting up after work felt like we were back in our dating days. We were closer than ever, something I couldn't have imagined not too long ago. Life as a couple was finally enjoyable again. My husband and I got along so well that it would have been unimaginable just a little while ago, and we were living a happy life together. With our marriage back on track, we decided one day to visit a fertility clinic together. We both wanted a child, not because of my mother-in-law's constant nagging, but because it was something we genuinely desired. That's why we decided to find out what was preventing us from conceiving. Noticing my anxious expression, Takashi spoke gently.
Don't worry. It's just been bad timing so far. There's nothing to stress about.
His encouragement made me so happy and gave me more strength than anything else. A while after the test, we got a call from the hospital with the results. We scheduled an appointment on our day off and went to the fertility clinic together. The doctor told us there was nothing wrong with my body, but... Takashi. The reality that we couldn't have children was devastating for me, but Takashi's disappointment was even greater. He looked utterly defeated. His shoulders slumped in despair, and I couldn't bring myself to say anything. Bad news tends to come all at once, and soon after, more trouble arrived at our doorstep. It's an unknown number. I usually ignore calls from unregistered numbers, and I was going to do the same this time. But for some reason, I felt an odd sense of foreboding. A gut feeling. Maybe. Hello? Wait, what? Mom? The call was from the hospital. My mother had collapsed and was hospitalized. I told them I'd come immediately and hung up. Thankfully, her life wasn't in danger. However, she was left with paralysis on her left side. Ever since my father passed away a few years ago, my mom had been living alone. But with her paralysis, living by herself wasn't possible anymore. I decided to take care of her. So, that's the situation. I'm sorry to impose, but could I switch to remote work for a while?
Got it. I'll reshuffle some tasks and make it work.
Thanks, Akiko. You're the best boss ever. I explained everything to Akiko, my boss and best friend, and she arranged for me to work remotely. Every morning I leave home and head to my mom's place. During the day I take care of her while juggling my job. In the evening I hand things over to the caregiver. It's a 1-hour drive each way. Saying the daily trips to my mom's house weren't exhausting would be a lie. Even so, not taking care of her wasn't an option for me. But
Lately, you've been slacking off, haven't you?
Takashi grumbled while poking at the store-bought croquette on his plate.
It's always supermarket food. The laundry's piling up, and you haven't even cleaned properly.
And just like that, Takashi's complaints started up again.
Seriously, how long is this caregiving for your mom going to last?
How can you say that?
What? Got something to say?
I admit I'm not keeping up with everything at home, but I can't do it all perfectly.
All I hear are excuses from you.
Huh?
You always act like you're the only one struggling, the only one dealing with hardship. I'm sick of it.
Takashi spat out his words like poison. At some point, he reverted back to his old, endlessly complaining self. It wasn't just Takashi who had gone back to the way he used to be. Since the fertility issue, my mother-in-law had been relatively quiet, but now she was back in full force.
Takashi says you don't feed him properly, so I brought him some dinner.
Thank you, mother-in-law.
It's for Takashi, of course. Nothing for you.
Figures, I thought to myself. Still, if I let little things like this get to me, I'd never survive as a daughter-in-law in this family. Day after day, Takashi and my mother-in-law opened their mouths only to complain.
Hey, where's the iron? My shirt's a wrinkled mess.
How about ironing it yourself for once?
Oh my, look at that dust in the corner. You're so careless.
A little dust isn't going to kill anyone. I was fed up with her nitpicking, determined not to give them any reason to complain. I started putting in extra effort to keep the house spotless. Of course, I didn't slack off on work or caregiving either. I wouldn't give Takashi or my mother-in-law a single chance to criticize me. My competitive spirit was on fire.
You look exhausted. Are you overdoing it?
Yeah, I guess I am. There's no time to rest, either at home or at my mom's place.
Your husband and mother-in-law still useless as ever?
Useless, huh? Well, yeah, pretty much. That day, Akiko came to check in on me, and I vented to her about Takashi and my mother-in-law. It was supposed to be a brief escape, a coffee break near my mom's place. But then I spotted someone unexpected. Wait, Takashi?
Hey, isn't that Takashi?
Yeah, looks like it.
And the woman next to him, she doesn't look like a work colleague.
No, she doesn't.
Yukie, are you okay?
Yeah, Honestly, I'm kind of surprised at how calm I feel. Maybe too calm.
Oh, could it be that your affection meter for your husband is already close to zero because of his behavior?
Something like that. Right now, all I feel is anger.
If that's the case, I won't hold back. My husband will probably join the fight too.
Akiko's husband, Kazuki, is a lawyer. With this incredibly reliable ally by my side, I started preparing for my divorce from Takashi. I left the investigation of Takashi's affair to the professionals and acted as if I hadn't noticed a thing, calmly going through the motions of daily life. Unaware that his infidelity was exposed, Takashi grew bolder and sank deeper into the affair.
Women have to be cute, after all. My wife, she's got zero cuteness left. She doesn't even take care of her appearance anymore. She's practically given up being a woman. Huh.
Takashi laughed with his mistress as he said that. Both his actions and their conversation were reported to me along with photos as evidence. Now, what to do next? One day, as I continued making steady progress toward the divorce, I came home a bit earlier than usual. From the living room, I could hear Takashi and my mother-in-law talking.
It's about time, don't you think?
How much do you think the inheritance will be?
Well, her house is paid off and she's always been frugal, so I bet she's saved up quite a bit.
For her retirement, you mean?
Exactly, that's it.
Oh, I can't wait to get my hands on it.
Seriously, I wish she'd just kicked the bucket already.
The sheer cruelty of their words almost made me collapse in fury. I'll never forgive this. Not long after, my mom suffered a second stroke and passed away suddenly. As I busied myself with my duties as the chief mourner, I caught a glimpse of Takashi and my mother-in-law.
So, the time has finally come.
It's a good thing Yukie is an only child. Marrying her really paid off.
Looks like my luck is finally turning around.
I couldn't hear their full conversation from where I was, but I could guess well enough. Are you really that happy my mother's dead? I'll make sure they pay for this. I swore to myself again. After my mother's funeral, Takashi and my mother-in-law wasted no time cozying up to me.
How much did you inherit? Let's build a house.
Let's go for a two-family home.
It seemed like they'd already planned out their rosy future in their heads. What a pair of blissfully ignorant people. I neither confirmed nor denied their excitement, choosing instead to smile silently. Enjoy your fantasies while you can. Dream on for now. Taking advantage of my silence, Takashi and my mother-in-law started behaving as if they already had the inheritance in their hands. My mother-in-law went on a shopping spree, buying brand name items left and right, while Takashi got himself a luxury car. These people have no sense of foresight, relying on someone else's inheritance. Are they really okay? I muttered to myself, making sure they couldn't hear me. The reckless spending spree of Takashi and my mother-in-law continued without any sign of stopping. Though Takashi and my mother-in-law kept squandering money, they began to grow irritated that I hadn't mentioned anything about the inheritance.
So, when's it coming in?
Takashi asked, sounding increasingly anxious. Oh, it's already been deposited.
Huh?
Thanks, Mom. In truth, my mother's inheritance had already been deposited into my account. Of course, I hadn't touched a cent of it yet. This money was meant to support me after the divorce.
If the inheritance is already in, you should have told me sooner.
Why would I need to tell you?
Obviously, because I have a right to use it too.
No, you don't.
What are you talking about? That money came to you, my wife. Naturally, I, as your husband, have the right to use it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm divorcing you, so the inheritance won't be yours.
Divorce?
Yes.
What are you saying?
Well, you've been cheating, haven't you?
Cheating?
Yes. And let's not forget all the horrible things you said to me while I was caring for my mom.
That's because you were slacking off on the housework.
Slacking off? Sure. You know what? It doesn't even matter anymore.
Doesn't matter.
Exactly. So don't count on someone else's inheritance to save you.
Wait, no, you can't.
Takashi, who had been recklessly spending under the assumption he'd get the inheritance, turned pale in an instant. The next day, Takashi, accompanied by his loyal ally, his mother, once again confronted me.
Come on, don't talk about divorce.
That's right, Yukie. Please reconsider.
And about the cheating, it's all a misunderstanding. I didn't do anything like that.
Exactly. Do you really think Takashi would do something so dishonest?
Oh, if anything, that's exactly how he comes across. I kept those thoughts to myself. As the two of them kept pleading, I decided it was time to lay out the facts. Here's proof of your affair.
What?
I've had everything investigated. Inside the envelope was a decently thick investigation report, complete with photos proving his infidelity.
When did you get this?
Takashi, you actually cheated on her?
No. I mean, this is...
It seemed his mother genuinely didn't know about his affair. As Takashi stumbled over his words, unable to deny the irrefutable evidence, I pushed even further. I've already arranged for a lawyer.
I never thought you'd stoop so low as to pull a sneaky move like this.
Realizing he couldn't talk his way out, Takashi suddenly lashed out in anger. Sneaky?
Yeah, snooping around behind my back like that.
Maybe you shouldn't have left such an obvious trail to begin with.
That's...
With all this evidence, there's nothing left to discuss. Divorce it is, right?
Fine. I'll go through with the divorce.
It seemed Takashi had finally resigned himself to the outcome. But then...
In that case, hand over half the inheritance.
Why?
Property division. Property division.
Oh, really?
It's my right as your husband.
Exactly. Takashi has every right to claim his share.
Sorry to disappoint, but a parent's inheritance isn't subject to property division.
What?
Didn't know that?
Huh?
So not a single cent of my mother's inheritance will be going to either of you.
No way.
This can't be real.
Takashi and his mother stared at me in shock, their faces pale, but I didn't feel the slightest bit sorry for them. That's why you'll need to deal with the money you've already spent on your own. Realizing the truth, the two of them held their heads in their hands. But this wasn't the end. Oh, and Takashi, I'll be asking for alimony as well.
Alimony?
Of course, this divorce is entirely your fault. Takashi's face went from pale to downright ghostly.
I'm sorry. It was just a moment of weakness.
Is there a universal template for excuses like this? Hearing such a cliched line from Takashi made me realize my already non-existent affection for him had somehow dropped even further. A moment of weakness, huh? It seems like it was quite a long-term weakness. It was only then that Takashi seemed to understand the full extent of how much I knew. Even so, he kept groveling as if anything he said could change my mind.
It was just a fling, you know? Like a little break from stress.
Another excuse straight out of the cheater's handbook. Apparently, that template really does exist somewhere in the world.
Yukie, Takashi's already apologized so much. Don't you think it's time to forgive him?
My mother-in-law's sickly sweet tone made me chuckle despite myself. But it was far too late for any of this to matter. I'm sorry, but I have absolutely no intention of forgiving him. At my words, my mother-in-law's face twisted from despair to anger in an instant, and she turned her fury toward Takashi.
It's all your fault for cheating in the first place.
What? Don't pin this all on me. You were always...
Me?
Yeah, that's right. You've been constantly nagging Yukie, haven't you?
Oh, excuse me? If that's the case, then you're just as bad.
Not as bad as you.
The two of them descended into a petty argument, their low-level bickering almost laughable. I couldn't help but burst into laughter at how pathetic they looked.
Yukie, we're married, right? Married people are supposed to help each other.
Married, huh?
Let's start over. I'll change, I promise. I'll make you my top priority from now on.
Did he really think such shallow words would work at this point? I was too stunned to even respond. Apparently, Takashi mistook my silence for agreement. He kept spouting delusional ideas.
That's it. Let's build a new house just for the two of us. We can start fresh there.
Before Takashi could go any deeper into his delusions, I cut him off mid-sentence. We're not even married anymore.
Huh?
I've already submitted the divorce papers. So yeah, we're no longer husband and wife. When I repeated myself, Takashi, who had been staring blankly, suddenly seemed to realize something.
I never signed any divorce papers. That means it's still invalid.
He declared this with a smug look on his face. Apparently, he had forgotten that he'd signed the papers himself. Oh, you forgot. You signed it yourself, remember?
When? I never signed anything.
Remember that time back when I first brought up the idea of divorce?
Ugh.
Do you remember now? Back then, you brought the papers to me yourself. You said, take this as a keepsake. If I ever hurt you again or make you unhappy, feel free to use it. That's what you said, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
Takashi crouched in despair, then suddenly sprang up and started shouting.
I won't accept this. There's no way this is valid. I refuse to acknowledge it.
Whether you accept it or not, the city office has already processed it.
What?
That means our divorce is officially recognized.
But
It's too late now. Tough luck. With that, I flashed my brightest smile at Takashi.
No way.
It's over.
Finally, understanding that nothing could be done, Takashi and his mother collapsed on the spot. The inheritance wasn't coming their way. And now, what about all the money they had recklessly spent? Facing the reality that they'd have to bear the consequences themselves, they could only despair.
Come on, we've lived together for so long. Surely we have plenty of good memories, right?
Exactly. We were family. Don't you have any feelings for us?
None at all, I declared firmly. You tried so hard to hold on to the marriage just to get the inheritance, and in the end, it was all for nothing. I'm done with both you and your mother. We're strangers now. From now on, you'll have to take care of yourselves. Looking now at the utterly defeated Takashi and his mother, I smiled brightly. Well then, take care, though I doubt we'll ever meet again. After that, I heard that my mother-in-law had to put the family home up for sale to repay their debts. Even then, it wasn't enough, and now she and Takashi are living in a rundown apartment, barely making ends meet. Takashi, I'm told, works his regular job and then moonlights at a convenience store to pay off the debts.
Mom, can't you find a better paying job?
At my age? That's impossible.
Ugh, you're useless.
How dare you talk to your mother like that?
Apparently, they spend their days constantly arguing, trapped in a bitter and hostile life together. As for me, I used my mother's inheritance to buy a modest apartment and started a new chapter of my life. Wow, what a view. I'm so glad I chose this place.
Yukie, where should I put this box?
Oh, sorry, I'll be right there. To thank Akiko and Kazuki for their help during my divorce, I invited them over for our housewarming party. Our bond has grown even stronger, and I'm sure we'll continue to have a great relationship. I'm only 39. It's way too early to give up on life, right? Maybe it's time to fall in love again.